Upon reflecting from the readings this week, I decided that what I'd like to do is create some type of reflection that teachers could look at based on Domain 4. Domain 4 specifically looks at reflection anyway and also incorporates that element of professional learning and the professional learning communities. So because our district models the professional learning communities, and I'm trying to incorporate more peer coaching into our supervisory techniques, I decided that I would look at a way where peers could work together and then complete a reflection upon finishing that work. So to focus on Domain 4, I look specifically at domains components 4A, reflecting on teaching, 4B, maintaining accurate records, 4C, communicating with families, and 4D, participating in a professional learning community. The overarching part of this is participating in a professional learning community, taking some time to work with a peer and to discuss what we want students to learn, how we're going to know if they learned it, and what we're going to do if they didn't learn it, and work together to do this. So I asked the teachers to find a peer, plan a lesson with them, and then ask them to observe each other's lesson so that they could figure out the best way to move forward. The first question that went along with this was, what teacher do you share ideas with for this lesson? What was your area of focus? What was your colleague supposed to look for in this lesson? What feedback did that teacher provide? So upon observing each other's lesson, they will sit down, they will talk, they'll discuss, what the area of focus was, what they were supposed to look for, and then also what feedback was provided that could be put on this reflection. Then some time to think about, hey, how are you going to use this in your lesson planning? The next question, what adjustments will you make for the next time you present this lesson? I looked at Danielson's ideas, and one of her topics of conversation was think about expectations for the lesson and compare those with how the lesson actually went. Then I also provided a link to teachers so that they could go and get some ideas on how to assess their own teaching so they could compare it to what the other teacher actually said. And so this link takes you to a place where you can assess your own effectiveness, gives you ideas on how to do it, gives you ideas on how to gather feedback from students, ideas on what to think about and what you wish to access, how you choose to access it, what students should look for, some self-assessments. And so these are just some ideas, some helpful hints for teachers to go along with that component of reflecting on their teaching. And again, this came from Learning and Teaching Center. Going back to the form, and looking at component 4B, I asked, how are students going to maintain the information indicating their own learning process? How do you know that students are learning? And what ways can they show that? And what records can they maintain? And I, again, provided a link to help teachers figure out the best way to do this. And this is an article from Ideas for the Classroom from the NCTE Elementary section. And it looks at classroom practices that monitor and inform learning. And then down on page 2, there's student record keeping. So teachers can get some ideas of how students can keep their own records. Examples of student records are my reading and writing, books I've read and composed. Then again, some more articles that teachers can talk about with each other, the habit of kid watching, quality versus quantity, and the clipboard. And then again, some resources down here that they can use as they move on. Going back to the post-peer coaching reflection. Again, looking at communicating with families in component 4C, teachers can talk about how this learning is going to be shared with parents and guardians. I posted another link where teachers can go and look at different ideas to share resources with families. This came from Edutopia. There's ideas for getting started, teacher-tested strategies and tips, effective communication. So there's an article on teacher-enhanced parent engagement, back to school nights, power of the positive phone call home, parent-teacher communications. And then finally, looking back at the form, I asked the teachers to think about this peer coaching, and I used some questions that I pulled from Danielson's book. Everyone finds it difficult to accept suggestions from colleagues. How do you convey to colleagues that you are open to their suggestions about instruction? This is just some ideas I want to get from teachers so that when we move forward, we can share these things and things can be better. Finally, how can you help colleagues give feedback in ways that are respectful and promote thinking? This is one way I'd like to use section Domain 4 from Charlotte Danielson and enhance our professional learning communities with it.